What's up everybody, and welcome back to Btwilla's Garage. Today we're going to be working on my E39 M5. This is a 2001 car. It's got 201,000 miles on the body, a fresh used engine swap. Shout out to my buddy Dan at Bemmer Performance Center for that. One of the things that Dan didn't do when replacing the engine was replace the ignition coils and boots. And after driving it a few amazing drives, I did throw a service engine soon light as expected. These coils and boots are probably 200,000 miles old. I was able to track it down using one of the scan tools behind me. So I'm gonna link everything you need to replace an ignition coil if that's what's causing your limp mode in your service engine soon light. The light was not blinking, it was solid. I plugged the tool in, I saw misfire in cylinder 6. What we're gonna learn today is how to test if your misfire in cylinder 6, 1, 2, 3, wherever it is, 1 through 8 in this car. We're gonna figure out how to diagnose that, how to swap that coil with a good coil to find out if the coil or the boot or the boot is indeed our issue, and then ultimately where to order the part from so that we can replace it and get back on the road soon. This job's very inexpensive to do in your own garage. If you have basic tools such as a 10mm flathead screwdriver and a cheap scan tool, you can figure it out, do it yourself, and save some money. I've got the fans off in the garage so that I can film in a decent quality, so if I start sweating, I hope you can see past that. It's like 100 and some degrees in August in North Carolina in here right now. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna open the hood. I'm gonna show you how to use that scan tool. You plug it into the OBD2 that I'm gonna show here momentarily. At the end of the day, guys, it's important to know that cylinder 1 through 4 is on the left as I'm facing the car at the kidney grills looking at the cab. 1, 2, 3, 4 is in order from your front left hand all the way toward the back of the engine bay. 5, 6, 7, 8 are on the right side of the engine bay, and we'll show a little diagram graph of that now, or at least me counting those off. As you look to remove the ignition coil, if it's number 5 or number 1 for that matter, you don't really have to move anything out of the way. There is a wiring harness support piece of plastic that's 2mm that may need to be moved if you're messing with 6 through 8 or 2 through 4. And there is we'll call it a snorkel for the air intake into the cabin that you may need to remove if you're going further in the back. And if you need any tools, for example, such as a scan tool, I'd appreciate it if you use my links. It costs the same to you and it does support the channel. With that being said, we'll be doing some more overviews and fun facts on the BMW E39 M5. This is such an iconic car. It was my dream car when I was growing up years ago when I started driving in the early 2000s. Let's get this thing back on the road, and I hope that you fix your problem as well. Welcome to the channel. Okay, so here are the parts that we're gonna use during the install. Really, we've got just a few variations of 10mm over here. You'll need shorts, you'll need longs, you may need a smaller drive such as a quarter drive in order to get past some of those wires if you don't feel like taking off the support plastic that I mentioned earlier. You'll see over here on the right a nice Foxwell unit that does more than just basic scans with a BMW. It is made for BMW specific purposes. And then we have just a cheaper unit in the back there that is very inexpensive and did indeed scan the misfire in this case. So if you want to invest in the future and have something to grow with the car as far as your mechanical abilities, maybe go with the Foxwell. It's around $150, I think, with a discount code that's on Amazon currently. The one in the back's closer to 20 or 30 bucks, and that will get the job done as well. So what I'm gonna show you is I'm gonna pull up an example of when I plugged this in and ran the codes. Each unit's different. You'll have to read the instructions, but you pretty much follow them and say diagnose car, however your system's set. You'll just have to follow those instructions. With that being said, guys, my problem was cylinder 6. So I ended up moving the coil and the boot that was connected to it to cylinder 5, and I swapped what was in cylinder 5 with cylinder 6. It was pretty easy. I did have to move that plastic support piece that I mentioned to get to cylinder 6. After I did that, I ran another diagnostic. I did have to drive the car, a mile down the road to get the check engine light to ping again. The car is safe to drive with a cylinder down like that. Not that big of a deal. Get the light to ping again, limp it back home, and of course the problem followed. All right, everybody, we've got our Bremmy replacement coil in, the best way to take the cover off is to use a 10mm ratcheting wrench because it is a tight area. And there's a 10mm here that needs to be removed. Going to the left, and there's one more in the back that you'll be able to see on this engine cover. Now, I've already loosened these bolts quite a bit to speed up this job, but when you take them out, it's important not to drop them, and they can be easy to drop, as you just saw. So there's one in the front and one in the back, and we're just gonna put those on our magnetic workstation. After that's done, we're gonna lift the cover, and it is a little bit tight, but this whole big metal cover lifts right up, and if you tilt it at the right angle, you gotta get past the AC lines there. Like I said, it's a little bit difficult, but you can do it. It also helps. There's a plug down in the bottom right that you can unplug, but as you see, it's not necessary. Now set this back on the table in the orientation that you pulled it off. The last step, if you're doing number 5, which I am right here, is to remove the two 10mm that are holding the coil in. So they're on the right and the left. And I'm gonna do that now. We're gonna speed this footage up, but it shouldn't take you long. My hand's probably in the way of that shot. There's what that nut looks like. And there's one more down low here that you can get to. So now that we have the two 10mm removed, we're going to slide up the slide lock. That's that metal tab there. We're just gonna get our screwdriver underneath it, lift it up. At that point in time, we're gonna be able to remove the wiring harness by grabbing as much of it as we can, the ignition wire, and lifting back. Now from here, we should be able to kind of wiggle coil around off of these 10mm guides. There we go. And it's off. Now a friend of mine wanted to see what happened if I squeezed on this boot, and it's actually not crumbling. So I don't know if it's the boot coil itself, but we're gonna replace the whole thing. So here's our new one. It does say Bremmy, which is the OEM manufacturer. And we're gonna go ahead and carefully slide it in and down on those 10mm guide bolts, like that. Get it seated all the way. We're gonna use our flathead screwdriver to lift up. This part can be a little bit tricky if you've never done it before, but lift up on that guide lock and kind of start going down while you're plugging it in. You've got to get it in a little lip there at the bottom. I think I need to come up further. You need to get it started and get it underneath that lip as you guide it in and push it down to lock it into place. So our wiring is now in place. We're going to reinstall our 10mm nuts to make sure this is seated fully. So I'm gonna get those started. I'm gonna press down and then we're gonna lock them into place. And at this point, if you were lucky enough for yours to be cylinder 1 or cylinder 5, then you're pretty much done. Yeah, that's down there good. So we just need to reinstall the cover and clear our codes and go for a test drive. So we've got 4 10mm total that we took off. I like to tighten these incrementally so that I'm not putting all the pressure on one side. Just like when you're putting a wheel on a car, that 5-star pattern, you're just doing it in 2-star pattern, I guess, and making sure it's entirely seated. I don't know the torque spec, but just get it somewhat hand snug. We're gonna go back in with our cover. The orientation is like this. On the right side, this little lip is over there on the right. This can be tricky, but you guys can do it. I see what it is. It's our angle of approach. There we go. Okay. Now our cover's back on. We can tighten up our washer, our little rubber washer, and our nuts right here in this area. Let's get that one started. Give it just a little bit of a crank so we don't lose it, like that. We'll get our back washer and nuts started. Left hand is a questionable choice. Check the orientation of our wrench. These shots are very hard to film without any help, guys, so I hope I'm doing my best to stay out of the way. But you can see I've got a good angle of approach here. And I'm just gonna have to do this like 30 times. So now that those are both tight, we're gonna hop back in the car, we're gonna clear the codes, and we're gonna take it on a drive. All right, the moment of truth. Ooh, feels like it's running way smoother. Let me go ahead and hook up the scan tool real quick, and let's clear that service engine soon light. It's running stronger than ever, guys. Here's third gear at 3,000. I mean, it is strong. It's raining, so don't want to do anything too crazy one-handed here, but it feels incredible. Thanks for tuning in to Btwilla's Garage, and I guess leave me a like and a comment if this job helped you out. Appreciate you guys. Take care.